Okay, so we want to continue with our videos. We want to go now to section 3.3, part 2 video. And I told you that what I wanted to do in this section was show you how to graph a linear equation with two variables just by choosing points. Okay, so let's start out with this very first problem right here. X plus y equal 5 by choosing points. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start out, and I know this is going to be a straight line because this is a linear equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find 3 points. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm aware that you can do this one in your head. But in just a minute, you're not going to be able to do the one in your head. So let's do this. Let's do this one together, but do it the way I want to show you. Do it this way first. Okay. So what did I tell you at the end of the last video? I said you could pick any number you want to and let it be either X or Y. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to this first ordered pair, and I'm just going to pull a number out of the air. I'm going to pull a number out of the hat. But I want it to be small because I got to graph it. So I'm going to pick the number 2. All right. I'm going to take this 2, I just pulled it out of the air, and I'm going to either put it here or put it here. Doesn't matter. All right, so I'm just going to put it right here. I'm going to put this number in red. That way you know that that's the number I just pulled out of the hat. Well, Mr. Rainer, could I have chosen 0? Yes. Could I have chosen -3? Yes. Could I have put it over here instead of here? Yes. Doesn't matter. All right, so now, you don't get to guess on the second one. Now, come to the equation, this is the X spot, and put 2 in for X. Now, find the Y. Well, you have to subtract 2 from both sides. When I do, I get Y to be 3. Okay, that's one answer. Now, easily you can check this. 2 plus 3 is 5. But remember, the next one's going to be more complicated. Okay, so let's do another one. Let me pick another number. Let me pick 0. Now, this time I'm going to put the 0 over here. Could I have put it over here? Yes, it does not matter. Now, let's go back to my equation. X plus y equal 5. So if this is 0, that's in the Y spot. So that's X plus 0 equal to 5. Of course, X plus 0 is just X. So that's X equal 5. Now that's really enough to draw the straight line. But I'm going to do one more just for good measure. So let's pick one other number. Let me take... doesn't matter. Let me pick a negative number this time. Let me pick -2, and let me put it in for right here, for y again. So we've got x plus y equal 5. Let y be -2. So this is going to be x plus a -2. And remember, that's the same thing as x minus 2. And then when you add 2 to both sides, you get x equal 7. So we've got these 3 answers right here. Now, are these the only 3 answers? Heavens no, there's millions others. And so your 3 answers and my 3 answers may look completely different. Now, let's draw the graph. I'm only going to draw the numbers, the ones that I really need. So, okay, so let's plot these points right quick. 2, 3 is to the right 2, up 3. 5, 0 is to the right 5, stay there. And then 7, -2 is to the right 7, down 2. Well, if you will look, you will notice that these 3 points do form a straight line. And so when I connect those points, the graph looks like that. Now make sure when you connect the points, make sure you put arrows on each end. Now, here's the neat thing about this. Look at what happens when you draw this graph. You see these 3 points right here? Those are my 3 answers. But every other point that is on here is also an answer to the problem. So for instance, look right here. What is this point right here? This is the point 6, -1. Well, is 6 plus -1 5? Yes. Well, look at this point right here. There's a point there even though it's not bubbled. That's 4, 1. Is 4, 1 5? Yes. So, when you draw that line, you are not just drawing a graph through your answers. When you draw that line, every dot, which are millions, every dot, every point, every ordered pair that graph goes through is also an answer to x plus y equal 5. So in essence, what are we doing when we draw a graph? You are showing a picture of all of the ordered pair solutions to that one problem. So really when you graph, you are solving. A graph is a visual representation of all the solutions to that problem. So really graphing is solving. And so that's why, because it's a straight line, that's why you and I don't have to use the same ordered pairs. Okay. Now, let's look at one. Just a second, I've got one over here I want to do for you. And I want us to do this together. Let's look at another one where it's not as easy to come up with a solution. So let's look at this one right here. I'm sorry about this. I want us to graph by choosing points. Let's look at this one. 2x minus 3y equals 11. Now remember, I'm going to show you a little bit later on a little bit better way, a little bit more of a economical way, if you will, of how to graph these. But right now, I'm just trying to just ease you into this. Okay, so now 2 times what number minus 3 times what number equals 11? Well, heavens, I can't figure that out, in my head. So here's what we do. We're going to pick a number for x, plug it in and find y. Pick a number in for y, plug it in and find x. Doesn't matter what number. But I want us to do this together because I want to make sure the numbers we pick are whole numbers. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do one of the ordered pairs. All right, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull a number out of the air. 1. Okay, so I'm going to let x be 1. Now notice again, I'm not picking both numbers. All right, so what do I do to find the second number? I take my guess, plug it in, and find the y that goes with it. So come over to the problem and replace x with 1. So we've got 2 times 1, which is 2, minus 3y equal 11. Subtract 2 from both sides. Negative 3y equals 9. Then divide by negative 3. Now I'm not spending much time there because we've been over this. So that means y would be negative 3. Now let me get a little ahead of myself. Tell you why we don't do a lot of graphing by picking points. Because let's suppose this right here had been 8 instead of 9. This would have been 8 over 3. It wouldn't have been a whole number. You say, well, Mr. Rainer, would that have made it wrong? No. If this had been 8, this would be 8 over 3, and I put 8 over 3 here. Here's the problem. When you're doing it on the computer does not have the ability to be able to plot the fractions. It only plots the whole numbers. So if I pick a number for x and I plug it in and I don't get out a whole number, I can't use that one. Doesn't mean it's wrong, but I can't use it because the computer doesn't give me the ability to be able to plot the fractions. So basically what you have to do just for right now is you have to make sure that you pick a whole number, and when you plug it in, you have to make sure that you get out a whole number. If you get out a fraction, you can't use that number that you started out with. All right, so let's pick another one, and I'm going to give you one that'll give you a whole number. So let's do another ordered pair. Let me pick this. I'm going to pull a number out of there, -1. And I'm going to put it over here this time. I could have put it first if I'd have wanted to. All right, if I let y be -1, so I've got 2x minus 3. And there's where the y goes. So I'm going to put the -1 right here. All right, when I do that, this is 2x. -3 times -1 is +3 equals 11. Subtract 3 from both sides. 2x equals 8. Then divide by 2 to get x equal 4. So I take that number, bring it back up here, and put 4. So all you do is take 1 comma -3 and 4 comma -1. Those are two of my answers. Then what you do is you draw your graph, plot these 2 points, to the right 1 down 3, to the right 4 down 1, and then draw your line through those 2 points. And again, you say, well, Mr. Reiner, how do I know the number I pick's going to give me a whole number for an answer? You don't. That's why we don't do a lot of graphing in here by just choosing numbers. I'm going to talk more about other ways how to do it in just a minute. Now, let me talk about a couple of things that you'll see in your homework. Most of the problems in your homework, your linear equation is solved for y, like something like this. So in other words, the x and the y aren't on the same side. The y is right by itself. If that happens, and now this is still a linear equation. Now, I could move this 2x over or subtract it across. I could get the x back on this left side. But if one of the letters is solved for, that's actually easier to graph than when the 2 letters are on the same side together. If this letter right here is on the side by itself, it makes it easier to graph because here's all you have to do. Choose numbers for the letter that's over here. Let me show you how quick this is to do. Let's suppose I let x be 0. Now I can do it in my head. Watch. Y equal, what's 2 times 0? 0. And what's 0 minus 3? It's -3. I'm done. Then all you have to do is plot that point. Now we have to do one more because you got to have a straight line. So let's pick another number for x. Let's let x be 1. If I let x be 1, what's 2 times 1? 2. What's 2 minus 3? -1. And then I'm finished with that problem. Then all you have to do is plot the points. Where is 0, -3? None left or right. Down 3, plot that point. Where is 1, -1? To the right 1, down 1. Plot that point, and then draw your line through those 2 points. And that's how you graph it. So it's really easy if your equation is solved for one of your letters. And it usually will be solved for y in this section. Now, if it's not, you do it like I said, if the x and y are on the same side, just pick a number for x and find y. Pick a number for y and find x. All right, let's do another one like this. So, if I have a linear equation with 2 letters, where one of the letters is solved for, here's the quickest way to do it. Pick a number and plug it in for this one. So I'm going to pick numbers and plug it in for x both times. Now you say, well, when it's like this, could I choose 0 and 1 every single time? You sure can. So if I pick 0, what's -3 times 0? 0. And what's 0 plus 5? 5. Now let x be 1. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. Negative 3 plus 5 is a positive 2. And you're done. Then you just plot those 2 points and draw your line. Now you can use more points. There's nothing wrong with that. But you definitely got to use at least 2. Otherwise you can't draw your straight line. Okay, let me do one more because I want to show you this. Now this one's very important because you have several in the homework like this, so make sure you watch this. Let's suppose one of the letters is solved for, but let's suppose you have a fraction in front of x. Not a whole number like the other two did. What do we do if we have a fraction in front of x? You say, well, are we still going to plug numbers in for x? Yes. Can we plug any numbers we want to in for x? Yes. Here's the problem. Remember, the computer doesn't have the ability to be able to plot fractions. So, for instance, if I let x be 1 right here, negative 2/3 times 1 is negative 2/3. But when you take negative 2/3 plus 2, you end up with a fraction. Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong. But the problem is you can't graph it in MyLabs Plus because it's a fractional answer. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to avoid having to do fractions. If there's a fraction in front of x, go ahead and choose the first x to be 0. And the reason is that's not going to give you a fraction. All right, let's do that. Negative 2/3 times 0 is 0. And 0 plus 2 is 2. But if I do it again, as I just showed you, and I let x be 1, that's going to give me a fraction. So, listen carefully right here. When you go to choose your second number for x, right here, your second, choose 0 for the first. When you go to choose your second number for x, choose a number for x that 3 divides into. That way it will cancel and you won't have fractions. So like right here, choose either like 3, 6, 9, or 12. If this was a 5, choose a 5, 10, or 15. If this is a 4, choose a 4, 8, or 12. Now I've only got to do this one more time. So I'm going to choose that number that's right there. So I'm going to choose 3. Now, watch what happens. When you put the 3 right here, 3 cancels with the 3 and leaves 1. But then negative 2 times 1 is negative 2, and negative 2 plus 2 is 0. So that is the best way to deal with those, and you will have some of these. That is the best way to deal with those when you, if you have a fraction in front of the x. Now, starting with the next video, now, what have we done right here so far? We have graphed linear equations just by picking points. Most of the time, we don't usually graph just by picking points. Usually, there are other ways that we graph straight lines. There's different ways to do it. At the beginning of the next video, I'm going to show you how to graph a linear equation with 2 letters other than just by arbitrarily picking a number 7 or negative 2 or 3. I'm going to show you a different way. And I think you'll like it a little bit better, and it's a little bit quicker. And so I'll discuss that beginning with the next video, and we'll also have one other thing that we need to talk about in this section 3.3 to conclude this section. So this concludes section 3.3 video. Was this? I think this was part 2. No, but I think it was part one, I'm sorry. So,